Every gardener knows the feeling. You walk outside and something is eating your plants. The aphids are back, the squash is wilting, the kale has holes in every leaf. So you go to the garden center, you buy a spray, you treat the symptoms, and next week, the same problems return. What if the pests were not the problem? What if they were just the messenger, telling you something much more important about your soil? Stacey Murphy ran a network of urban gardens in Brooklyn, producing 30 to 60 pounds of vegetables every single week. And she kept 90% of all pest, disease, and weed pressure at bay without spraying a single thing. In the next 11 minutes, she is going to share the 6-element prevention system that made that possible. The system most gardeners never discover because they are too busy treating symptoms to find the cause. This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy reveals the 6-element system that keeps 90% of garden pests away before they ever arrive.
Starting mix. If you replace up to 10% of the seed starting mix with worm castings, otherwise known as worm poop, the plants that grow from this mixture, they were 10 times less susceptible to pests and diseases in the field.
This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy reveals the 6-element system that keeps 90% of garden pests away before they ever arrive.
For more information, free resources, gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community.
So here's what we're going to cover for the next 45 or so minutes. Here's what the pests, diseases, and weeds don't want me to tell you. All right? So secret number 1, your health plan is your first line of defense against pests, diseases, and weeds. So you're going to beat them before they get there. So secret number 2, systematically create more of the habitat you want instead of reacting to the problems as they unfold. And secret number 3, weeds are plants too. So you can decide if you want to cultivate them or not. All right, so secret number 1, your health plan is your first line of defense. Okay, so I mentioned that I had a garden system I used to keep at least 90% of the pest, disease, and weeds at bay. And
this is the insight most gardeners never reach because they are focused on the pest, not the plant. A dying plant attracts pests, while a thriving plant naturally repels them.
And before I go any farther, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. What do I mean by a garden system? Well, I run my garden system like a business, and I have lots of protocols. I have a weekly schedule that I follow, and if I go on vacation, I can show somebody exactly what I need to do while I'm gone because it's a system. And the system has 7 elements, and each one of them is designed to streamline. I'm going to back up one slide there. Sorry about that. The system has 7 elements. Each one of them is designed to streamline my efforts and improve my yield. So most importantly, I keep records so I can make the system even better year after year. The 7th, if you've been counting on the screen, there's 6 elements there, and the 7th is your time mastery. And time mastery is really all about this pest, diseases, and weeds because we want to do less effort. And if we can master a preventative plan to tackle them before they become a problem, then we spend less time in our garden, we get more success that we want. So which part of this system is responsible for eliminating about 90% of the pests, diseases, and weeds? And you probably already know the answer if you have been with me for a little while on some of my other trainings. And yeah, I see a couple people in the Q&A box saying it. It is the soil. So the soil, this is your fertility plan. This is really the health plan of your garden. You're not waiting for symptoms of being sick. You're doing the things that keep your gardens healthy. So the most important thing to understand about soil, if you are a beginner, is that there are billions of microorganisms in a handful of healthy soil. And these are what ensure the health of your plants. Your soil is alive. So when your soil is dying, so are your plants. It's as simple as that. And the dying plants are more prone to diseases and pests they come to eat that dying matter as well. So what do I use to ensure healthy plants as my number one line of defense? And I just showed you the slide. So what I do is 2 inches of compost every growing season. It's a critical part of my wellness plan. Now let me tell you a story. Remember that site where I was growing a network of urban gardens? I wanted local growers to take over these sites and create a hyper-local food system, create a network of backyards. We were going to feed the community and also create jobs at the same time. It was a great vision and it was working, but I had an unexpected issue when I turned over this backyard to another grower. And I let them know that I was going to be there if anything went wrong. So keep in mind, I had huge success with this yard the previous year. 20 weeks of produce. Every week was between 30 and 60 pounds of produce. The neighbors who signed up for the subscription of vegetables had received 6 to 8 types of vegetables in their bags, plus herbs and flowers. And I turned that backyard over to a new gardener, not anybody on the screen. And it was in great shape. There was cover crops that were about to bloom. There was a whole bunch of overwintered garlic. We were all optimistic it's going to go really well. And then I got a call about 8 weeks later. And she said, "Stacey, can you come take a look? I'm having some issues with this backyard garden." And when I got there, I thought, that is a total understatement. There were pest and disease issues on every plant.
This is Stacey's most important story. A garden that had everything except the 2 inches of compost that were keeping the entire system alive.
Every plant, everything was dying. And I didn't know where to start the conversation with her, so I started at the beginning and I said, okay, well, where did you get your compost? Because I thought maybe the compost wasn't good enough quality. And she said, my heart totally dropped. She said, "What compost?" Oh, goodness. So when we had transitioned to the site, she thought that I had applied the compost. I thought that she was applying the compost, and it never happened. So if you're a beginner, what you need to understand is that growing food takes nutrients out of the soil, and there are the nutrients that end up in our food, and those nutrients have to be replenished. And we need also all of that life in the soil to help with that process too. So do you know why I say 2 inches of compost? Well, organic farmers are super smart, and they can look at what they're going to grow each season, and they can calculate how much of each nutrient the crops are going to remove from the soil, and then they can calculate how much organic material they need to bring back to the soil through compost, mulch, or cover crops to replace those nutrients. And that's why it's called organic farming. Now, as a gardener with a smaller plot, it's ridiculous to do all those calculations. It would be overkill. But what we can learn from those farmers is that they all get approximately the same number for how many inches of organic matter we need to feed our beds each season if we're growing vegetables and herbs. And that's 2 inches of decomposed organic matter, otherwise known as compost. Now, not all compost is created equal because it can be made of so many things. So we can save the full discussion for another day, but I did want to share a couple of tips about your compost. All right, so I mentioned this is the number one line of defense, so you want to be adding 2 inches of compost at the start of each season. Well, if you're growing year-round, you possibly want to apply another 2 inches in the fall because you're basically doing two rounds of vegetable growing that most of the other world is doing. So you want to basically double that number, right? You want to double down. And then another tip about that compost is that typically organic farmers talk about 2 inches of plant-based compost versus animal manure. And if you have animal manure compost, there's a couple things. Make sure it's fully composted because it can be, I won't go into all the details here because this isn't a soil lesson. Make sure it's fully composted, and then maybe start with just 1 inch and then add a couple handfuls around the plants throughout the season because it's different than your plant-based composts. All right, and tip number 3 on that compost, if you can make it yourself, you know what's in it. That's really powerful. You know that you've made good compost and it's all organic. So try to do that if you can. And one of the shortcuts I take sometimes is that I get my compost to break down to a certain level where you can't recognize anything, but there's still some little chunks in it, but it's full of life, and I bury that in my garden beds, and that way I know that my soil is going to be teeming with life. Now, I want you to have extra credits because this is your health plan. This is huge. This tip, what I'm about to share, is huge. It changed the life of many people that I know. So if you're going for this extra credit, here's what you want to consider. And I'm going to tell you another story. Some organic farmers, they did studies to find out what effects worm poop had on the health of plants, and specifically on starting seeds from scratch with the addition of worm poop. And what they found was that if you are starting your own seeds in trays, let's say, and you have some seed starting mix, if you replace up to 10% of the seed starting mix with worm castings, otherwise known as worm poop, the plants that grow from this mixture, they were 10 times less susceptible to pests and diseases in the field than the tomato plants that didn't have any worm poop in the seed starting mix. And the other thing that was interesting is in these tomato plants that they did this test, they saw better yields with the worm poop. So that's pretty powerful. So replace up to 10% of your seed starting mix with worm poop because it's full of beneficial bacteria, which is fabulous for building the biology that you want in your soil, the health plan of your soil. This is very, very important. Okay, now this is what's interesting to me about this study. I love looking at these studies that farmers have done. So one of the things that the study said, above 10%, they saw no additional benefits.
Write this down. 10% worm castings in your seed starting mix. Not more, not less. This is one of the most specific and powerful pieces of pest prevention advice in this entire video.
So you want to use the worm poop up to 10%, but then above that, don't bother. And worm poop, if you're buying it, can be expensive. So you can add it in, and if you're only putting in 10%, then you're going to save money versus putting in more. So don't put in any more than you need. And you may be able to do your own vermicomposting. This is a fabulous reason to start doing your own vermicomposting. All right. So what this means is that adding worm poop to your planting beds can also be very beneficial in keeping your plants pest and disease free. Their poop is full of this beneficial bacteria, and these tunnel through the soil and aerate your soil. So this is something that I would recommend for everybody who is starting vegetable and herb gardens. You're going to love the results if you do a before and after. All right. So remember, secret number one, and there's no slide for it. I'm already on secret number two, but secret number one, your health plan, your soil fertility plan is your first line of defense against pest diseases and weeds, all right?
Think about where you were at the start of this video. Treating symptoms, buying sprays, watching the same pests return week after week. Now look at what you know. Healthy soil is your first line of defense, not your last resort. 2 inches of compost every season is what organic farmers calculate as the precise amount needed to keep soil alive and plants thriving. 10% worm castings in your seed starting mix makes your plants 10 times less susceptible to the pests that destroy most gardens. And systematically creating the habitat you want, understanding the life cycles of your top 3 garden pests, means you are never reacting. You are preventing. Stacey Murphy kept 90% of all pest pressure at bay for years using this system. Now, you have it.
You are not the gardener who reacts to pests anymore. You are the one who builds the soil before the season starts, who adds the worm castings, who understands that a thriving plant is a pest-resistant plant. If you want to keep learning from Stacey Murphy, there is a whole community of gardeners doing exactly this, completely free at growyourownvegetables.org.
This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, and what Stacey just shared with you took her years of growing, failing, and figuring out to discover. But here is what most people watching this do not know. Stacey is just one of 15 world-class experts we have sat down with. Soil scientists who have spent decades unlocking what makes food grow stronger. Clinical herbalists who have turned ordinary gardens into medicine cabinets. Master growers who have cracked the code on growing more food in less space with less effort than you ever thought possible. 15 experts, 15 breakthroughs, each one sharing the single lesson that took them a lifetime to learn. And every single session is waiting for you right now, completely free. One registration, instant access, no credit card. Just go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit, and the moment you sign up, all of it is yours.